Hello, YouTube. So good to have you again with us today as we talk some very important financial matters. I have a guest with me, Jocelyn Drake, who's been in my classes on Saturday that we teach here. She is plugged in, been a great support and help to me, and you'll see her on many of these videos. Not all, but many of these videos she'll be on. She's going to talk to me today about some questions that she would have about some things we've discussed in the past on other videos. Thank you.
Hi guys. So I'm beyond elated to have the opportunity to talk to Jack because he's a wealth of information. He's done some videos and some things. I had a couple of questions that I think you may have had some questions as well, and we're going to allow him to kind of fill us in on those details. So um, we know if you've listened to Jack's videos, he talked about his upbringing, and it was very compelling, and it really encouraged me as well as I know it may have encouraged you that if he can do it, we surely can. So one of Jack's main principles is stewardship. So Jack, can you tell us like what is the number one thing for a person who would like to become disciplined in that area of stewardship that you would
Okay.
say they should start doing?
Well, first of all, Jocelyn, I would say they should live on a budget, do a budget, and live on a budget. Look at it twice a year, mid-year, and then, of course, at year end. And you set a framework of your spending habits and of your cost, and see if you can create surplus. You know, a surplus amount, and then most of us do as much as we can, whatever that may be. And then maybe you set a goal for your total, but first it all starts with a budget. And very few of you out there live on a budget. Uh, then from there, you want to create that habit of saving. And the easiest way that I have found, and I believe all people find, is when they have a compulsory savings where amount is put into savings every month without them having to do anything. If you'll read the book The Automatic Millionaire, it will touch on this point repeatedly. You need automatic savings. It's not haphazardly savings, but automatic savings. Some people say pay yourself first is another term. So pay yourself first and start saving money for good stewardship.
Oh, I think that is awesome. I've read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. You may have as well. It's one of my favorite books. Like I read it 5 times, but you know, reading and then practicing the principles are two different things. I think what Jack just said about the automatic savings is really, really a game changer for a lot of us because we'll have that mindset of saving and then, you know, something happens and we kind of go off the beaten path. So that was a very key point. Thank you so much
Yes.
for that, Jack.
Yes.
The second thing is you talked about the first two properties that you wanted to purchase. I've always wanted to be a real estate investor. You have been helping me, talking to me about moving into that next step. I'm beyond excited about that. But kind of tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, being 23 years old and then getting your first two properties, that had to be exciting. Kind of tell us about
Well,
it.
well it was, Jocelyn, and uh, again, it kind of ties back to my. I have to give credit for the subject of my education being real estate, and had gone to those classes. And from day one, I wanted to be an investor. I did not want to be a realtor. Never have chosen to go out in that direction. So I wanted to be an investor, and so I started combing the newspapers looking for properties. And I had compiled quite a few newspapers of properties for sale, and I bought my first two right out of those listings.
Wow.
In the properties. I know you guys, many of you may not even know what newspaper is, but way back, I mean, this is where you put your real estate. One of the items, everything was in it, and so I would always go there every Sunday afternoon and start breaking down the available properties and where I might be interested. So, and I had to find those that I could do. And hey, real estate is so forgiving, Jocelyn. It's so very forgiving. I bought my first one, I told you, at night. I walked around it. I made an offer. Believe it or not, it was to an old high school classmate of mine. And I didn't want to look bad, to be honest with you, so I made an offer for 10% off of their ask price. And she said, well, Jack, write that up. We'll take it tonight. And I was stunned that I had bought a property, but I couldn't look like a dingbat. And so I went ahead and I wrote them a check, and we took a contract that night. And then I came back and looked at the house the next day. But I did probably pay too much for that house, but that house is credited and created in my overall financial lives over $300,000 in rents I have accumulated because of that one property in profits above the cost, because we were paying the cost off as I got the rent from the tenants. And so it may be one of my worst purchases ever, but it wasn't bad that it threw in $300,000. I'm not even counting the tax deductions that I got off of it, but and I paid probably $10,000 too much. Very forgiving, real estate, very forgiving. And the second one I bought 1 week later after I closed on that first one, and I was out of money. My insurance bank, my INS banking system, was out of collateral, and so I had to wait 3 years before I could start buying again. And of course that was hard for me to do, being young and aggressive at that, but I was glad to watch those two and see how they operated and for me, and so I was ready to go 3 years later though with more capability. Okay.
That is absolutely awesome. We've heard Jack, if you listen to the previous videos, he talked about the different ways you can purchase real estate through terms, subject to, or some of the things that he said. And later on in the videos, upcoming videos, Jack will expound a little bit more with us on what that looks like. So he talked about the first two properties. Then he said he came and got 18 properties. I mean, wow, that's huge. Jack, tell us a little bit more about 18 properties for a young man.
Okay, thank you, Jocelyn, on that. 3 years later, at 26 years old, I began to buy again, and my private bank had filled up some with money from rents, and I took all of my rents. The first 2 years of that, all of the rents I paid, the houses were fixed up and what we call turnkey. They were ready to live in. The people put them on the market, fixed up and dolled up to sell. So I had very little maintenance those first 3 or 4 years. And so I took all of the rents, put them into my bank, and I committed to that. I remember it as if it were yesterday, that these two need to go together and stay together, and regardless of what other stuff I may do. And so I committed my real estate income to my private bank. And so I stored all of the rents. I stored the income tax refunds I got. I told you in another video, my first year I got back just over $4,600 on those two houses in income tax refund. And so any of that I got over the years went into my bank, especially the first 10 years went into my bank, and my collateral built up higher, which allowed me to get more loan out of the line of credit that I had with the insurance company. So that's how we began the first two. Okay.
So Jack told us that he purchased those first two properties, but in later videos, he also told us that he purchased 18 properties. So I wanted him to give us a little bit more of a breakdown on how he accomplished that at such a young age.
Okay, Jocelyn. Yes, after the first two, it took me about 3 years to accumulate funding again in my INS banking system. And so I accumulated the rents. All of the rents went into my bank. I didn't even take out any money for maintenance, because as I bought these properties right out of the newspaper that were fixed up, ready to sell, no fix-ups, and pretty much. And so I started buying again and got a little more aggressive in reaching out, and I was just buying anything I thought was a good deal. Now, most of those were not fixed up and needed work, like you will incur at times. And so at 26 years old, I started buying again, and we bought that cluster, and then I bought individuals. Most of the time, I was still taking over existing mortgages, buying subject to most of the time, except for that 6-pack that came from the investor that I bought from. That was a third of them there. And so I made a commitment here really after the first two that whatever I did in real estate, all of the income generated from any source, whether it was a sale or whether it was rent or a trade or anything, that money would go into my banking system so that I would have bigger collateral to again give me a higher loan amount. And so those loans were always at or below the market, so I liked that. They were deductible, and I could tax deduct them, and then I would and I had great flexibility with the loan. See, Jocelyn, I could pay my 6 months loan at one time. I didn't have to pay it every month. One of these mentors I had was astounded that I could pay when I wanted to pay, but to have that kind of flexibility. But I could do that, and at the end of the year, I would pay whatever I had in my real estate account. Because as I said, I committed that funding to my banking, and it was a good interest rate, anywhere from 6 to 9.9% has been a 30-year history of interest and dividends. So that was good, safe money and a good, safe yield on the money, and it was tax-free. I didn't have to tax deferred, but it's also tax-free when I borrow money. There's no charge or taxation triggered on any loans that I've taken. So at that point, I had to fix those 17. So I started taking money out of the 17 that needed fix up and getting them repaired. I repaired them like you should do, which is for a rental. If you're going to hold the property, you want to fix them for long term, and not necessarily the cosmetics of it, but more about the sturdiness of the fix up. And so we did that over the next 3 years. A friend asked me why I wasn't in trouble because I had all those properties that were vacant. 17 out of my 20 were vacant when we began that process. And so I just shut everything down and did the rehabs over the next 3 years and getting them on the rental roads. Along that line, and about that age, I began a side hustle business that also contributed to this $600,000 that you saw in the other video, $600,000 of cash that was in my account as a accredited investor, and had $400,000 of real estate equity at that point.
So that brings us right in line with what we were going to ask you next, is about accredited investor. And you've heard Jack talk about that's really what his channel is about, to help us become accredited investors. And some of you may not even know what that means, but it sounds good, especially when he talks about $600,000 in cash and $400,000 in real estate. And so we're going to let Jack tell us a little bit more, like, what does it mean to be an accredited investor, so that we know what we're looking for when we come to his channel, and how he's going to coach each one of us into that place. Jack, share with us.
Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. Yes, let's make that a goal for yourself, for your family, and you can study this term. It's on Google, anywhere. But accredited investor puts you in a league and a level that is, probably less than 5 or 6% of America is in, and so I'll define that for you. It's $1 million of net worth assets, plus your residence, not included in this $1 million. So you need $1 million of investment assets net, or $200,000 a year for 2 years for one individual, or $300,000 a year jointly. And now there's a lot of folks that are in this level here, Jocelyn. They could make it based on that. And I know when I meet and do planning work with these many people, I see these people that make this kind of money all the time, but they can't even, in a lot of cases, can't even fund an IRA plan. So it goes back to that stewardship that we talked about. They should, but they haven't done some things financially they need to do, and maybe you haven't. We're here to help you do that because we want you to be an accredited investor and be an exception and be able to do things that others can't do. And you'll find it'll be a wind of opportunities that come your way when you get to this level. And it gets level. Now, this is the most difficult time to attain. So you've got to buckle down, get serious about it, and want to be financially free, because we want you to get to a status as soon as you can where your earnings off of your assets are greater than your job earnings. Okay? So you work because you want to work and because you love your job, but that your investment over here is running a race with your job income. And when you get to where it is generating more money, more income than your job, then you will feel a lot better. You'll be more confident. You'll have peace. You'll have the ability to do things that probably nobody else in your family will have. And so we want to help you with that.
Hey guys, I want to encourage you to like and subscribe to Jack's channel. I can say that you won't be disappointed. He has a lot of information, a lot of content. And what I love about Jack is he's just not talking about something. This is how he has lived. These are his results through the years. And so he's going to break it down for us in a way that we can understand, and not just understand, but also be able to implement in our own lives. He has some great things upcoming for each one of us where we can gain more knowledge. And also, if you want one-on-one information from Jack, you want him to be your coach, all of that information is upcoming. So stay tuned. And again,
Yes.
like and subscribe.
Yes. Thank you for attending today. And there'll be a lot more to come, especially with real estate topics and stuff that I've learned over the last 40 plus years. So stay with us.